Hi, good morning everyone. I'm in a really good mood today. Last night I was talking to Zanvas and he's like, well, let's go watch Alex Jones on InfoWars. And I'm like, oh, okay, why not? And he had this guest on. His name was Steve P. something. His last name is something. I can't even begin to pronounce it. Anyway, I'm going to post that in the description box. And from that, looking at and listening to all of what that Steve had to say, we started discussing the point of coming into this reality and why it was done and how it was done. So basically, I'm going to be talking about timeline wars. Basically, it's timeline wars. And it wouldn't exactly be wars, but maybe fixing. So Arthur was talking to me. He's like, Sonia, can you look back or forward or whatever and find out what this whole thing is about initially? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So he had a base knowledge of some things that he had discovered throughout his time here. And I was finding things that kind of fit in nicely with what he already knew, which I didn't know, because I wasn't into all that. So let's just start off with this. What if something went terribly wrong in this figure 8 at a point that changed everything and brought it to a dead end and it needed to be fixed? It needed to be eradicated because the dead end needed to be prevented. And when I'm talking about a dead end, I'm talking about a dead end to humanity, where we literally come to a dead end. We can no longer replicate, we can no longer reproduce because something had happened and had changed all of that. And we literally came to a dead end. So I was looking at that and I discovered that right now, with these tech people and them pushing the transhumanism, it was the beginning of the end of humanity. And let me break this down to explain why. Right now they have where they want to change your RNA to create a new DNA strand inside of you. Now, when these biological bodies were created at one point, because they were created, they were done in perfection so that there would never be a true duplicate copy. Even in twins or quintuplets or whatever, they are not truly duplicates. Even their fingerprints don't match. So when you have two twins, they don't have two same sets of fingerprints. And that also goes in with their DNA stranding and coding. So with these move to be transhumanism, when they created that extra DNA strand, modified us to the point where we cannot be individual anymore. It modified how we replicate ourselves. It came to be a replicating dead end because that DNA strand did something to our replication system where we lost that individuality of DNA, where no other being has your DNA. And with that loss was the beginning of the end of the human race, because it did eventually go into a dead end. So he's like talking to me, he goes, I have discovered that there were grays that came from a different point back to try to fix this so it doesn't happen to begin with. And I looked into it and I said, well, yeah. And he goes, well, they're human, right? And I'm like, well, yeah. It's like, I'm going to put this into a category where you could really understand it. I'm going to take up a life of crime, but when I do it initially, I don't realize I'm taking up a life of crime. First, I'm going to steal a car. Ooh, then I got caught. Then I got put on probation. Then I'm going to do something else. And the next thing you know, you have been put into a life of crime by the decisions you have made. And it's so hard to undo what was already done, because once you're put into a life of crime and you end up in the penal systems and it totally messes you up here, you get to where you can't be on your own, you become dependent on the penal systems, and it really screws with you. And it's changed your destiny. Well, this is what's happened in another timeline where the transhumanism was allowed to continue, and it ended up as a dead-end scenario. It was really the end of mankind, these carbon-based shells, the end. And so it looks like they went back to try to avert what was in their reality, obviously. So we always think, well, where did all this technology come from? All of a sudden, we're horse and buggy, and now we have tech like there's no tomorrow. When these beings came back, they gave the technology to the residing beings here. Because of the corruption that had taken place, they knew that the technology was going to be used twofold, one for positive and one for negative. But they needed to do this regardlessly because they needed us all to get up to par to where we are now so we can have the global wide world web so we can communicate with each other over the topic of transhumanism. Do we want it or do we not want it? Do we want to be enslaved by it or do we want to say, no, enough, we've got to change this because it didn't serve us well. From their point of view, it didn't serve us well. So I was looking into things that were happening into my own reality. And I saw that, and I've been tampered with since I was young, but I'm also seeing now that because a lot of stuff I can't see. It's basically blocked from me. And I have tried and tried and tried to break those blocks, and finally it's starting to break up. The blocks are, and I'm being able to see now because I've gotten past a certain point where I had to do or behave a certain way to get things done. I will tell you that if it were not for my husband getting rid of me with no notice, he just up and got rid of me, I never saw it coming, I never would have started this channel. I never would have come out of my security, my, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, where I felt safe and didn't have to deal with the world that we live in, which that was never my mission, to stay hidden away. I needed to come out, and everything happens for a reason. So I was thinking how convenient it was that my brother Kai was in Taiwan, and this house was empty and ready and available for me to move right into. Of course, it's his house. It's fully stocked with everything you could possibly need. Pots, pans, glasses, dishes, anything. It's all here. And I'm thinking, wow, that was convenient. And then I started looking into it, and I'm like, that wasn't convenient. That was done intentionally. So then I looked into why my husband, when he was having a surgery, he worked for Chrysler, and he had multiple severe surgeries. I mean, surgeries that replaced most of his spine and neck. And in one of those multiple surgeries, he had died on the table. And when he came back, he wasn't the same being. That wasn't my husband, Randy. That was somebody else. That was something else. And it was dark and negative. And that was in 2016, right around that time frame. And he had a problem before that where he had his first surgery in 2013, and he died too. And it had drained most of his spinal fluid out of him and damaged his self. And throughout these multiple surgeries, it was changing the being he was. At one point, my husband was very much in love with me. And after all the surgeries, years of a culmination of almost 8 years of surgeries off and on, he became, especially when he died on the table, something else came in. I guess he just gave up and it was time for him to go. And which put me into this scenario that I'm in now and making these videos and in the process of a divorce, which now we're looking at. I was with him since I was 20. I am going to be 55. I never thought I would be divorced. I never wanted to be divorced. I always wanted to be the housewife. I wanted to cook. I wanted to clean. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to love someone. I didn't have it. I thought that when my husband retired in 2016 that it would be the beginning of a new life. I had no idea that it was going to be the beginning of a new life. So I just wanted to add that in there. I've had people say, how could your husband leave you because of the person that you are? And it's like, well, you know, everything happens for a reason. Even if we don't like it, nor if we don't understand it, everything happens for a reason. So I was looking into that. There was some helping going on to get my brother into Taiwan, into this job that just miraculously came up, and they called him, and there you are, and now you can go, and because he was looking to go do stuff in his job. So that was all done, so I would have a place to stay here. I found it incredible. Needless to say, but there it is. So every one of us who are going to have a major impact on the psyche of waking up are going to be put into a scenario where we can do this. And this is the timeline war is what I'm talking about, how things roll out. So Arthur was like, so you mean to say that the tech was actually giving to the military purposefully, knowing that there was two ways they could go on this, and hoping that with manipulations of the positive here and there, because the negative was working so hard against, that they could get a better timeline for the future, for humanity, so it didn't become a dead-end scenario, so that these carbon-based shells could get to the higher reality, and not through tech, where it is a dead end. Humanism, transhumanism, I should say, is a dead end. It's a dead end scenario. They've already gone down that path. It didn't work out well. So I just thought that I would put this little bit of information out. Please go watch Infowars. Oh, I have the hardest time with that. Infowars with Alex Jones. I think that's his name, Alex Jones. Oh, I'm bad with names. And with the guy, Steve, which I can't pronounce his last name. And know that everything is going into the positive direction. This is, after all, the Aquarian playing field. This is where positivity has the biggest foothold, so we can get up and out into a better human reality. So I just wanted to put this video out and let you know that everything's okay. We're going to be all right. It looks really bad on the media. Remember, the media whores are exactly that. Whores who are not on your side, who will sell you out and have sold you out for $1, €1, or whatever, a pound, whatever your money system is. They are our biggest enemy. I'm going to be happy when two things happen in this scenario. One, no more chemtrailing. That's the fat lady singing, saying it's over. Being sprayed like cockroaches to kill our environment, to kill us. And two, when the media whores are put down. And then we're going to have to relook at media. And I think we need to create laws that if you put out propaganda that is completely proven to be illegitimate, to harm mankind, you will stand accountable. Because that is a mental weapon. And it is, and has been, weaponized. Which is the cabal's biggest weapon, is the media. They own most of the media. So, everybody, please go watch the Infowars. I'm posting it in my description link. And I guess that's all I'm going to say today. Everybody, have a great day. Things are looking up.